Hello again, everybody. It's me, Marcus, and I review stuff. Today I'm reviewing the song Home Invasion / Regret Number 9 by Steven Wilson. So, I've just recently started getting into Porcupine Tree. I've heard a couple songs by them, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And so many of you have told me that, hey, Steven Wilson is kind of like the guy that heads up Porcupine Tree, and he does his own music and stuff. So I should check out some of his, solo projects. So this is from his solo project. Again, Home Invasion, Regret Number 9. A lot of people have recommended this one for me. So I'm assuming it's probably one of his more popular releases. So really excited to get to this one. Like I said, I've really been enjoying what I've heard from Porcupine Tree. So I'm hoping that hearing this Steven Wilson will be just as enjoyable, just as entertaining. So anyway, this does come as a request. As I mentioned, a lot of people have mentioned this one. As always, if you would like to request something, just leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to get to it eventually. But let's listen to it. Here we go. It's like the start of a horror movie. I like that.
Down Another day your love has passed me by, but I have lost all faith in what's outside. The yawning of the stars across the sky, and the wreckage of the night. Another day your love has passed me by, but I have lost all faith in what's outside. The yawning of the stars across the sky, and the wreckage of the night.
That was awesome. That was really cool. It's sort of my prevailing thought throughout was this is kind of what Rush would sound like if they were a little heavier and a little more depressed. But yeah, I got a very big Rush vibe here, mixed in with some like Dire Straits, Money for Nothing. I got a little bit of that vibe as well. While still being wholly its own thing. I think this song did a really good job of really distinguishing itself and sounding like something familiar while also sounding like something I've never heard before. So I think it was a really good time, really great listen. I had a great time with it. The guitar blew me away. Honestly, the bass came through really well in addition to that. The keyboard or synthesizer, whatever they use there, also sounded great. They threw in a little solo for us there, but I'm guessing Home Invasion is the one with the lyrics, and Regret Number 9 is maybe the second half of the song that's almost purely instrumental, but put them together and they make a really cool song. I liked it, man. I thought it was a great one. Thank you so much. I can see why people have really requested this one, because this one was really enjoyable. This was like a really just great showcase of different talents, instrumentally, and even just with Steven Wilson and his writing and his vocals. It was a great time, start to finish. I honestly it was an 11-minute song. It did not feel like an 11-minute song. It kept me entertained. It kept me invested the entire time, which is great. And that's one thing one very positive thing I've had to say about Porcupine Tree as well. All the songs I've heard from them have been much longer songs than what we generally get from other bands. But they've kept my interest the entire time throughout the song. So it seems like Steven Wilson really knows what he's doing when it comes to putting together these songs, and keeping them moving at a nice pace and just keeping the listener entertained. So yeah, fantastic. Anyway, let's go ahead and break it down like we normally do. Now, before I read the lyrics, there is a little bit of information here. It says, "This is a song that characterizes life for the everyman in the first world." As Wilson puts it in an interview with the Huffington Post, the song itself is about the internet. It's about this idea of social networking, and it's about this idea that you can, in a way, redefine yourself and redefine your personality online to project an image of yourself closest to the one you would like, if you see what I mean. There's a line in there, "Download the life you wish you had." I think there is something about the internet which gives people almost an opportunity to role play and create a facade, an image. I see that as quite a dangerous development, because I think that what we call social networking, Twitter, Facebook, etc., is actually quite antisocial. It's a way for people to have the illusion of communicating with each other, connecting with each other. In fact, in truth is social networking makes it easier to disconnect, to kind of hide behind social networking, Facebook, cell phones, Twitter, and all this stuff. It's a song really about that and my concerns about that side of technology in the 21st century. It connects to my central character. So, upon first listen, I can definitely get that. When was this released? 2015. So yeah, this is definitely a timely topic at the time of this writing. So, building on this in the same way as new circuits of mobility are not erasing but merely restructuring their dependence on the material world and creating new kinds of materialities, the song moves from the digital to the analog and finally ends with a banjo solo. Okay, I knew I heard some banjo there at the end, overlaid with children's voices. This beautifully captures how, while mediated by technology, Vincent's central concern perhaps dates back to the earlier times, and Govan expresses this angst beautifully in a smoldering guitar solo. That guitar solo was pretty fire. Thus, despite Wilson's insistence that this is a song about the internet, one could see the aspiration to download the life you wish you had, as long preceding social media, which can be seen as only the most recent manifestation of a desire to better ourselves, which is central to capitalism/modernity. Now, this last part was kind of put in there by the person who wrote this mock-up here, but really what I'm going to lean on here is that part that came from Steven Wilson himself. That it's a song about social media and the internet, what have you. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and read through this. So it says, "Download sex and download God. Download the funds to meet the cost. Download a dream home and a wife. download the ocean and the sky. It kind of reminds me of that. I'm sure many of my viewers are old enough to remember. You remember those ads that were like anti music piracy, where it was like you wouldn't download a car or whatever? It's like kind of reminds me of that. But but he's being serious. Like that ad was serious in a really weird way, and it ended up being memeified as time went on. But here he's literally talking about our dependence. I mean, download sex. There's porn all over the internet. You would have to try not to find porn or at least suggestive stuff on the internet to avoid it your whole life. And download God. Kind of a funny little sidebar. You're more likely to get a computer virus from a church website than you are a porn website. The reason is porn websites typically have really good, I guess, moderators, antivirus systems, servers, etc. Whereas, church websites are typically run by just like a dude or, a pretty shady hosting site. So, just a fun fact of life. But it's true that, I'm gonna download sex. To me, that's pretty self-explanatory. Porn all over the internet, to the point where you've seen things like I know it's like reality TV is not really reality, but you see like these reality TV shows and stuff where it's like people are addicted to porn, or they're addicted to looking up porn online, stuff like that, and to the point where it's almost like they neglect their actual partners that they have one to begin with, or they neglect actually going out to find a sexual partner or what have you. You almost see that a lot too. I think I might be adding more meaning to this than what maybe Steven Wilson even thought of, but you see it a lot nowadays too. You go to any Twitch stream of an attractive girl or YouTube channel of an attractive girl, and sure enough, there's guys in the comments just being real scummy and like pervy and simpy, if you will. And it's just I kind of see the message here where like social media disconnects us to the point where it's like we're trying to connect with other people, but social media is almost like a blockade, a barrier, and it does make for a weird thing. I have a degree in sociology, and the internet has long fascinated me from a sociological perspective. I'd be interested to read more studies about just how we put ourselves out there on the internet, because I mean he's right. The person you're seeing right now sitting in front of this camera, sitting in front of this microphone reviewing this song is not truly who I am as Marcus here sitting in front of you. Like, as a watcher of my stuff, you really get to see what I allow you to see versus what actually happens in my life. It is an interesting concept. I haven't even gotten past the first line yet, but there's a lot to think about here. But this download God part I find very interesting as well, because the more time I spend, especially on Facebook, and I don't want to keep Facebook because I've had it since I was like in high school, and it is sort of a way to connect with people I don't really talk to as much. But at the same time, I recognize it is terrible. But this whole download God thing, I do see a lot of this like I don't know what to call it, even fair weather religiosity. Where you just see like these Christian memes, or like this sort of let's make it whatever we want it to be sort of religiosity that just has never sat right with me, and so I feel like in a sense, kind of what Steven Wilson's saying here is that the internet maybe almost sort of becomes our God versus what we used to consider a God. Not only that, but I guess the ideas that you see in a lot of this internet preaching, internet religiosity, it kind of has strayed from, I guess, the tenets, the roots of the religion itself. I don't know. There's a lot to be said here. I feel like I'm not putting my thoughts together correctly, but I think of what I see on the internet, and to me, I'm like, this line means a lot to me. Anyway, download the funds to meet the cost. That could be a commentary completely on like crowdfunding. It's like, for my non-American viewers who don't have to pay for healthcare, it is entirely sad to see someone like having to start a GoFundMe or some other sort of crowdfunding source in order to just get help for themselves or for their family. There was a really good video on it. One of my favorite YouTube channels, Some More News, he did a whole video on like uplifting stories that are actually a sign of our dystopic American society, and basically those are part of it. It's like, high school builds functional wheelchair for kid who can't afford one. It's like, oh, how sweet, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, why are we living in a system where a child can't afford his wheelchair that he needs, right? And so, to me, like, again, I may be like adding so much more meaning here than what Steven Wilson even intended, but I think that's the beauty of lyrics and the beauty of music and just art in general, is that yes, it's what the artist creates and what they have in mind, but we also as viewers and listeners add our own meaning to it as well. It's the way that we navigate and we sort of negotiate with media. So I just think that's interesting. Download the funds to meet the cost. And it really, I think there's a lot to be said here, too, about just the monetization of the internet as well. Hell, YouTube, I've started watching more and more people on YouTube, and so many of them have something to say about YouTube's monetization policies and everything. And luckily, as a small channel, I don't even have to worry about monetization yet. But even if I did, I probably wouldn't want to, just because at the end of the day, I'm using other people's creative work and I'm just talking about it. It's not like I'm making any sort of creative work of my own. I always feel kind of scummy, like I would feel scummy kind of monetizing something that doesn't belong to me, if that makes sense. But I think you kind of see as time goes on, as I grow up a little bit more, as I learn a little bit more about the internet and YouTube, I just feel like so much of it is controlled by money, and it's just like, obviously everything is, but to the point where a lot of creativity is out the window because you can't say certain things, can't do certain things without fear of getting demonetized, right? So you kind of lose that passion or that creativity that you had. Again, I'm adding a lot here, but I like these lyrics. There's a lot to think about here. Download a dream home and a wife. Download the ocean and the sky. I think the big thing here, too, is the illusion that we're fed when it comes to social media, right? Like, download a dream home and a wife. And again, this is talking about the modern man. But so many times you go on the internet, you see your friend has bought a new house and it's beautiful, it's gorgeous. They post pictures of their beautiful wife, or the wife herself posts pictures on her Instagram or what have you. These social media influencers are posting pictures on the beach and whatever else. And so I think what he's saying here is that many times, instead of going and getting those things or going and doing those things ourselves, we're almost living vicariously through people on the internet. We're fine with looking at these social media influencers. We look at them, we think, man, wouldn't it be nice to just go visit the beach every weekend like they do, to be as fit and healthy and what have you, but at the end of the day, we're almost downloading a lie, this sort of facade, as he said, that's fed to us. It's definitely something to be aware of on social media. So then we get the chorus: another day on earth has passed me by, but I have lost all faith in what's outside. So I think what he's saying here is that, we're wasting so much time just on the internet, and he says, but I have lost faith in what's outside. So I'm disconnected from the outside world because I'm too focused on what's going on here. The awning of the stars across the sky and the wreckage of the night. Download love and download war. Download the shit you didn't want. So we even use the internet when we don't even want to. Like, it's sort of like we can't get away from it, if you will. Download the things that make you mad. Download the life you wish you had. And again, that goes back to that social media influence, right? You see these people living the life you wish you had, and you're just so connected. Instead of doing it, you're viewing it all the time. Another day on earth has passed me by, but I have lost all faith in what's outside. The awning of the stars across the sky and the wreckage of the night. Yeah, I think it's a very poignant message. Something that definitely needs to be heard by many people. It's interesting. Facebook, Twitter, I'm on both. I'm on a lot of social media, and I think, again, the older I get, the more my sociological brain kicks in, and I'm like, man, these places are kind of terrible. Twitter I hate because there's people on there who will always say just outlandish, outrageous stuff with no sources, no research. They'll say, this controversial thing, and then they'll say, go look it up for yourself, go inform yourself or whatever. And it's like, okay, but you're the one who posted the opinion in the first place, so the burden of proof is on you. I know it's kind of a tangent, but I kind of get what Stephen Wilson's saying here. At the same time, as a young person who kind of grew up alongside the internet, I do kind of disagree with the message a little bit. And here's why. Like, I feel like, yes, if the internet is all you have, it's all you know, it's all you do, then yeah, it's definitely disconnecting in many ways. I feel like if you have balance in your life, if the internet is not the only thing you have going for you, then it's a much more useful tool. I think we're seeing that a lot right now, especially during lockdown, quarantine, what have you. Last night I was up to like 2 a.m. playing video games with my friends who I haven't seen in weeks, months. But the internet, not necessarily social media, Xbox Live, I guess, whatever, has provided us a way to connect where we currently can't. But when we're not in quarantine, when we're not in lockdown, yeah, I'll still play video games with my friends, but we'll also go out and do stuff. We'll go get dinner, we'll just hang out at each other's houses, what have you. Same thing with, like, I have friends who I've never actually met in real life and only know through the internet. I'm thinking of one right now specifically. I met her when we were in college through Tumblr, of all things. And just last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, she invited me to come over to her Animal Crossing village electronically, right? So it's just kind of like, yes, the internet can be very soul-sucking, soul-destroying, but it's also a place to connect, and I think it depends on your balance, it depends on how you use it, and it depends on your own psyche as a person. I hope I never have kids. Let me just go ahead and get that out of the way right now. But if I ever did, I would feel very uncomfortable with introducing them to many parts of the internet until I felt like they were ready. There are parents out there, and I don't know, this is going to sound like a judgment, it might be, who just hand their kid an iPad and say, here, leave me alone. here, the iPad is your babysitter. And so you get these kids who are sort of growing up without a filter because they have access to everything on the internet. Kids who are basically growing up on YouTube, and YouTube is a terrible place to grow up. There's so much, so many people peddling to kids on YouTube, trying to sell their shitty merch to kids, trying to sell their shitty lifestyle to kids, and it's I think there's a lot to be said about the internet and its influence on us. But yeah, kids especially, I mean, it's tough. And then at the same time, I think on the opposite end of the spectrum, sort of adults who are older than me, the boomers, a lot of them, I think, struggle to distance themselves from social media. And then I got to give credit where credit's due. People like me, millennials, even people younger than me, Gen Z or what have you, some of them are really, like, addicted to the internet. They're more concerned about getting that perfect Snapchat or that perfect Instagram post or what have you than actually just living life in the moment. I went to an Alter Bridge concert, wearing my Alter Bridge shirt today. And when I was younger, when I was in high school, I was one of those guys who was sitting there with his camera, and this was like a digital camera before I had a nice phone, sitting there with his camera, like, recording the whole concert. And I think back, I'm like, why did I do that? I was there to see this band that I really liked. Why was I recording the whole thing through my phone? And then why did I post it on Facebook later? Because why does anybody want to watch my shitty recorded content, from watching this band live? And so when I went to see Alter Bridge many years later, like last year, I left the phone in my pocket. I enjoyed the show in front of me, and I think that's a big part of social media. A lot of people criticize, and rightfully so, is that if you're, and this is kind of what Stephen Wilson's saying here, is if you're so focused on the internet, you're missing out on the moment. So all that rambling and all of my opinions, just to say I really like the lyrics here. I thought they were very creative, and definitely like a very timely, important topic to our current society. I give it 2 thumbs up. Even more so than the lyrics, I think where this song shines, it really is in the instrumentation. The banjo at the end kind of just threw me off, but it was a nice touch, and I can see why they put it in there. Really, what had me throughout was the bass. I actually really liked the bass line carrying the song throughout. But even more so than that, the guitar. Some of the guitar solos we got were fantastic, man. Some of the best solos I've heard in a while. And even before that end solo, they kind of gave us some nice little guitar riffs, some guitar flourishes, some mini solos, if you will. Guitar was fantastic throughout this one. Keyboard was great. Drums were great. Actually, the drummer was one of the first things I noticed. I don't know if he uses the same drummer as he does in Porcupine Tree, but man, the drummer in this one was going off on certain parts. And like I said, it really gave me that vibe of Rush, the vibe of like Dire Straits, Money for Nothing specifically. That sort of it almost sort of sounded optimistic, like a Rush song would, instrumentally. But, with Steven Wilson's sort of depressed singing style, and of course with the lyricism, it definitely wasn't that sort of bright, poppy song that you kind of come to expect from many Rush songs. But, I thought it was fantastic. Like I said, at the end of the song, it was familiar with that Rush feel to it, while still giving me something new that I feel like really I haven't heard before. So it was great. But I'd be interested to see what other influences Steven Wilson draws on, because I do feel like I heard a couple of classic bands influence in that song. So all that to say, instrumentally, vocally, 2 thumbs up. Really enjoyed it. As far as replay value goes, look, man, this one was great. This one's going on the playlist. This one's getting some playtime. 2 thumbs up there as well. So again, thank you so much for this request. I really, really enjoyed this one. A lot of fun. As always, if you would like to request something, please just leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed the music, go support the art. Just go listen to the music wherever you can. One place you can definitely check them out is going to be in my Spotify playlist. It's got every single song I've heard so far on my channel. Actually, Steven Wilson may not be on Spotify. I only say that because Porcupine Tree only has a little bit of their music on Spotify. They don't have their full discography. They do have, luckily for what I've reviewed, I've been able to find the live versions on Spotify. But other than that, hopefully Steven Wilson is on Spotify. We'll see. If so, he'll be in the Spotify playlist. So, if you want to support me, just all the normal stuff you do on YouTube, like and subscribe and comment. That's it, guys. See you later.